and welcome to Ecclesiology. I'm your hostess with the mostess, Mik King, otherwise known as Miss Ecclesiology. So this YouTube spot is all about answering your questions about ecclesiology. My faith background is Christian, and I identify with the United Methodist Church. This means a lot of my answers will use the UMC as an example or counterexample for ideas. I get emails and comments from people with all sorts of questions. One question that comes up a lot is, what is ecclesiology? That's a great question. For a short scholarly definition, we turn to Eustace L. Gonzalez's essential theological terms. In it, he says that ecclesiology is the theological discourse regarding the church and its nature. But for a more practical definition, we look to one given by Reverend Dr. Ellen Blue. What is the church, and who gets to decide? Some churches are part of denominations that have very defined ecclesiology. The United Methodist Church, for example, has an ecclesiology that is based on its idea of connectionalism. That is, every local church is actually a mission outpost for the United Methodist Church. So, every 4 years, delegates from every conference come together for a general conference. Whatever is decided at the general conference gets put into the Book of Discipline, and that is how the churches of the UMC agree to function together. The general conference sets the standard for who gets to be ordained and perform the sacraments, which for the UMC is baptism and communion. The basic standard for who can be married in the church is also set at general conference. Even the committees that a church is to have is set by the general conference. Other churches are non-denominational and as such have a much different understanding of ecclesiology. If the church is already established, the pastor and the elders or the church council should have procedures in place on how the church makes decisions, such as who the members are, who gets to be baptized, and things of that nature. At this point, you might be asking yourself, why is this actually important again? Or why should I care? Isn't it enough that I believe in God and go to church and all? Well, let's take a look at a couple of things. Back to Gonzalez. In his book, The Story of Christianity, Volume 1, not to be confused with Mel Brooks' History of the World, Part 1, Gonzalez explains the Arian controversy and the Council of Nicaea. In 325 CE, or the Common Era, the Council of Nicaea met in, Nicaea. Approximately 300 bishops met to decide some things for the church. And at this time, there was basically one church that followed Jesus Christ, and it was upheld by the Emperor Constantine. Yes, this would be a state-sponsored religion at this point. Probably the most influential decision that was formally made at this council was that Jesus was co-equal with God the Creator and was begotten, not made, by God. Jesus is God, not a creature of God. And the reason this came up at all was because a presbyter by the name of Arius argued with the bishops that Jesus, the Logos or the Word, was not co-eternal with God the Creator or God the Father. But after this decision that Jesus was co-eternal, and numerous people saying the Nicene Creed over and over, the Trinitarian understanding of God with a divine and co-eternal Jesus is the most accepted understanding. That was ecclesiology at work. But Nick, that was a long time ago. Why does ecclesiology matter now? Excellent question. Let's look at something a little closer to home. Currently, no one who is open about being a homosexual can be ordained in the UMC. Other denominations, such as the Disciples of Christ, allow this, but the UMC doesn't. Whether a person agrees with this stance or not, the UMC cannot change its official stance until 2016, when the next General Conference is held. And as such, the jurisdictional board has the right to refuse ordination of any openly gay person, no matter what the person's local church might think. And if the delegates of the General Conference don't vote to change the rules, then the rules won't change for any of the UNC. This is ecclesiology at work. Bottom line, ecclesiology matters. These are rather large issues, but even issues such as what type of worship you have at your church, with more contemporary music or more traditional music. That comes down to ecclesiology. What kind of outreach your church focuses on comes down to ecclesiology. Even questions about which creed you say in worship, if any, come down to ecclesiology. What is your church and who gets to decide? Now, if you only have a select few who are deciding, you only have a select few ways of experiencing God being expressed. The more voices you have in this discussion, the more chance your church will have to experience God in new and wonderful ways. Grace and peace